Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Erving Planning Board special permit hearing for 25 Old State Road for a parking lot. My name is Jackie Boyden. I'm the current chair of the Planning Board. With me is Melanie Burnett, Joe Newton, Deb Smith, and Tom Glennon. We also have our attorney here.
Brian Falk.
Brian Falk. I knew Brian. I blanked out on the other one. And also Glenn Johnson-Musad, who's our town planner. So the applicant's going to do the presentation first. It's going to be on the big screen so you can all see it. We'll then open it to public comment after we've had some questions. You know, if we have questions we want to ask the applicant, then if you want to come and ask some questions, you have to come to the table. This is being live streamed and recorded. There is a 3-minute time limit. We ask that Erving residents be given first preference first. And after that, and I think that those are pretty much all the ground rules if I didn't forget any of them. So would the applicant like to come up first? And when you come up, please introduce yourselves.
This is on. Well, good evening. My name is Bucky Sparkle. I am the civil engineer for this project brought in by Western Massachusetts Climbers Coalition to help with the design and permitting of their proposed parking lot. With me this evening, I also have one of the board members of the coalition, Mr. Ryan Shimeko. And while I will be doing the more technical presentation, I'm actually going to ask Ryan to stand up for a couple of minutes and give a little background on the coalition and Farley and some of the stuff that happened long before I got here into this project. So Ryan, please.
So I'm Ryan Shimeko. I am a board member for the Western Massachusetts Climbers Coalition. In my professional career, I am a natural resource specialist for U.S. Department of Agriculture, and I focus on land protection and conservation. And so that's been experience has kind of been infused into this project. So I just want to start off by introducing the WMCC. At the CONCOM meeting, I was asked a question of this by an individual who has interacted with parts of our organization for I think 30 years, and she wasn't sure who we were. So the WMCC is a nonprofit that manages climbing areas across Western Massachusetts. We do not get any revenue from any of the properties that we manage. All of our money comes from grants and donations. And our founding is because of Farley ledges. So almost 30 years ago, some of the individuals sitting behind me, Rob Sullivan, Andy Newman, were climbers at Farley. And in the late 1990s, there was a closure. And a couple climbers were sitting at a bar, is the story I'm told, and they were literally sitting there going, what are we going to do? And so they founded the WMCC to help work with the residents of Erving and try to act as a shepherd for the climbers that were coming. And so that organization still exists, and it still does that job. So there's 450 active members of the WMCC that pay dues to our organization, but our focus, while we have evolved, and we work with organizations across the state, like the Department of Conservation and Recreation, Mass Wildlife, various land trusts. Farley is still the most important place to our organization. And so, as many people in town have to know that there's a lot of climbers that come to Farley, and not all of them are our members. But we try our best to guide them to the right places, and we try to keep them off of Route 2, but we're struggling to do that. And so, keeping information low in previous generations worked, but now with social media and the internet, it is impossible to keep people from finding Farley. It's kind of considered the worst kept secret in New England climbing because Farley is the best climbing area in southern New England. It is one of the best in the Northeast, and it has fabulous rock quality and a really high density of climbs. It is one of Massachusetts' best recreational resources by far. And so we want to try to find a way to accommodate the people that want to come here, but also minimize the impact they have. So we want to try to make it so that the people that are coming who don't know the history behind farther ledges and why the WMCC exists and why there can be conflicts and why there can be friction, there's a place for them to go and to be managed. And that is the goal of the project. It's to deal with the parking concerns, it's to deal with the environmental concerns of having people parking along the river and in people's in the front of their houses. And so I think that is the goal of the WMCC. And so I think I'd turn it back over to Bucky for the technical aspects.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. With the table and microphone, I'm used to like standing up for my song and dance, but I'm willing to sit here if you'd rather have me at the mic, I think, because it's being live streamed. Yep. Okay. I'll stay in my seat today. Glenn, could you please go to the next page? This is for the submittal plans. So I'm going to talk briefly about this site. The overall property is 74 acres, and we are looking at disturbing roughly 1.5 acres down by the road. The vast majority of the property is a mountain and woods. But there is an old agricultural field with relatively flat land that is accessible. There is also, as you can see on the left-hand side, an existing driveway. It's a separate parcel, still owned by the same entity, with a trailer and a barn up there. There are bordering vegetated wetlands you can see in green on the bottom of the slide along the roadway. And we've been working with the Conservation Commission in making sure those resources are adequately protected. Glenn, go ahead to the next slide, please. So in terms of what we're looking to create, it is a parking lot. So the proposal is to take the existing driveway, upgrade it so it's suitable for two-way traffic and meets Mass DOT standards for a non-residential driveway, as well as the drainage that comes along with that. We are in the permitting process with Mass DOT, and I'm hoping close to the end with them. It's we've been doing that since March, I think. And so the large purple area, that is the parking lot. This is not a paved parking lot. It's not even a gravel parking lot. This is an open graded stone. So think pea stone. Most people are familiar with this product. The parking lot would be made mostly of that material that is held in place by what's called a cellular confinement system, a GeoWeb, and this is a flexible material that when you fill it with aggregate or soil, it locks in, becomes very, very strong, and can support an enormous amount of weight. It is also 100% pervious. It is far more pervious than the existing topsoil. So the parking lot is actually basically a giant sponge right now. You can see at the bottom of the screen sort of a rectangular light blue rectangle. That is a proposed picnic area. That's one of the flat areas of the spot. Since this is an open parking lot for the public, people spend the day climbing, but also there are other users, dog walkers, anybody who wants to use the trails and get out there is welcome and able to use this. So a little picnic area makes some sense. We're looking to install a shed, a few porta potties. You can also see sort of the olive line that swoops up and then comes back in the top right quadrant of the plan. That is a gravel access road that's going to connect to an existing woods road. Now the woods road goes up into the acreage and goes off into the trail system. And the pedestrians can go up the gravel road, but also this provides an access for emergency vehicles it would need to be four-wheel drive kind of vehicles, but now there would be access for vehicles for rescue or fire operations if they need to get up on top of the hill. Let's see, in terms of the stormwater management system, all 10 standards have been met, mostly because I'm installing a giant sponge on the property. And we are in negotiations. It hasn't been resolved yet, but the applicant is looking to take roughly 72 of the 74 acres and put it into a conservation restriction. That includes the woods, but it also includes all the frontage east of this that would prohibit further residential development, because there's a family that lives just to the east, and that area is also, we're trying to lock that in for conservation restriction to prevent further development. as well as potential future expansion of this parking lot. If 30 years from now they wanted to do something more, they wouldn't be able to. And Glenn, can we go up a couple to the planting plan? So it's, I think it's sheet 6. I'm sorry, by up I mean down. Yes, there we go. These were the same plans I used for the Conservation Commission, so there were different things to talk about. But I do want to bring up to the board that, of course, all the disturbed area will be replanted. There are 5 different potential seed mixes for the site, depending on what is going to happen. Most of it, the darkish green, is basically going to be a pollinator meadow. So we're looking to create a very diverse and local wildlife food source for pollinators, birds, and other critters. Different seed mixes for the picnic area, different seed mixes for the swale. There's a wetland replication area, of course, that gets its own specialized materials. And Mass DOT has to tell us what they want in their right-of-way, but whatever they want, they're going to get. It's just going to be some durable, salt-tolerant grass, I'm sure. In addition to just throwing some seed on the ground and the erosion control blankets and sediment logs and all the ways to protect the environment, the coalition has come up with a very impressive planting plan. So screening for the parking lot is going to be provided on the west, on the south, on the east. Additional trees are going to be installed on the north slope because we do cut into the slope a little bit. That will remove that vegetation. So they're putting back several trees, many of which are large oaks and a few other species. There are 108 shrubs and trees being proposed, which is quite a significant number. It's more than double what I would have expected for a site like this. And I know when Oxbow Associates was at the Conservation Commission meeting yesterday, they were head over heels about this planting plan. So I'm very pleased to have that up on the board. And mostly that is the view of the project. I'm sure you've all looked at the application, but I do want to point out that as was submitted with the application, there are several local and regional entities that have written letters of support for the project, either directly or for grants to support the project, which we consider being support for the project, because why would you ask for money? That includes the local business, Fleas Market, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Am I pronouncing that right? I'm not from the Erving area. Fleas? Fliss. Thank you. Okay. I swore I heard somebody say fleas. I'm like, that's strange, but I'm going to run with it. Okay. Fliss. My apologies. They have written a letter that said, please, when we love the climbers, we're happy if more come, although, as Ryan indicated, they're coming now. We're just trying to sort of shepherd, it's a great word, shepherd them to a much better, much safer, much more controlled location than they're currently scattered about Erving. So it's not going to generate a lot more traffic is our expectation. We're trying to relocate the people who are already coming. But other letters of support come from Senator Joe Comerford. The Erving Select Board has written a letter of support, as well as the Erving Conservation Commission. So there's a broad amount of support from members of the local and regional community for this project, and we are hopeful that the board agrees that this is a reasonable addition to this part of Erving. That concludes the presentation, and of course we're happy to answer questions and hear comments.
Start?
Yeah.
Sure.
So looking at the vegetation plan, and from what I'm guessing, we have, V is the, going back to the now, going the different types of trees and shrubbery. Will your commission be responsible for maintaining these in terms of like the, storm comes through, something falls down, tree dies, needs to be replanted, that falls on your purview as a regular maintenance and as a regular upkeep?
Yeah, so we have another parking lot in Sandusfield, Massachusetts, and that's what we do.
Okay.
And we also, to that point, we don't just manage the trees on the parking area. Mm-hmm. We manage the trees throughout the entire property. Sure. So we actually, believe it or not, are doing that at Farley Ledges. We clear debris. I don't know if any of you are familiar with woolly adelgid hemlock disease. There's a guy sitting right behind me, Andy Newman, who helps take care of that. So that's something we do on a regular basis. Yeah.
So I had a couple of questions concerning the picnic area. It's rather large, 60 by 25. And we did receive some letters of support and some letters with concerns. And one of them is the visibility and the volume of the people coming to the picnic area, which will be very visible, which is now a meadow, right? And that sort of thing. So can you explain to me why it's so large?
Well, it's uncertain how many people might use it, and if people are going to a picnic area, I'm not looking to, like, Jones Beach crowd them together. They're going to be spread out 20 feet between people. Well, that's about the breadth of the area. So right now, this space would comfortably suit 6 little groups, and it would be relatively full before it becomes dense. Also, there are a series of plantings that also will help screen that area. There's, it is identified on sheet 6, but all the circles down there,
Yes,
those
I
are all
could see
plantings that are to help break up the visual impact.
So I actually did the planting plan. That's part of the whole Natural Resource Conservation Service is why I mentioned that. But so that planting plan, so the park, the picnic area is going to be a little bit higher elevation than the road is, and then you'd have most of the vegetation would be around chest height, a little bit taller at full growth, except for the 2 corners. Well, some of the plants closest to the road, those grow significantly higher. So it is still going to be screened. But one of the reasons we kept the vegetation lower was that if people were using the picnic area, I was trying to avoid essentially creating a box of hedges. I mean, we're open to adjusting the screening to the picnic area. Really, the thing that I cared about most was the habitat quality for animals and pollinators, and also making sure that the plants that we were choosing, there was redundancy so that if something were to happen, we wouldn't just get all of our plants wiped out at once. And also that they were climate tolerant. And then finally, we need to make sure that we actually hold the soil in place because, I mean, we're going to be generating topsoil from the work because we're leaving the underlying sand in this parking lot underneath the permeable stone to allow it to filtrate. But a part of the size of the parking lot was determined by the topsoil. So we were trying to avoid removing topsoil, then moving it off-site. And so that's a part of some of the size of that parking lot is going to be determined by the soil that's created during the project. So it wasn't there wasn't necessarily we need to have a parking area, a picnic area like this particular size. We were trying to think ahead.
And what kind of plantings are you talking? You keep saying plantings. Can you tell me specifically what kind of? Do you have a plan for that already?
Oh yeah. So
Yep.
Page 6.
I was more concerned particularly around the picnic area.
Right.
To address some of the concerns that
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
were
Maybe you
mentioned.
could read that?
Okay, so actually, now that you mention it, so the 2 Vs, the 4 Vs, the viburnum, which I think those should get to about 6 to 10 feet in height. We're actually going to be changing those based off of recommendations from the Conservation Commission's reviewers, and the reason for that is that Oxbow Associates notified us that that arrowwood species is vulnerable to a pest. So that is one that we have to change. And then, so what you kind of have is this front row facing the road is going to be a mix of flowering deciduous plants and then some bayberry bushes. So you'll have a mix of evergreen shrubs and deciduous shrubs. The thought behind putting deciduous shrubs there was that we definitely want to make sure that there's dense foliage during the summer and the spring, but no one's going to be sitting in the picnic area during the winter. So, well, hopefully not. But the thought was we were trying to incorporate some aesthetics. I didn't want the pollards to open their door and be staring at a giant hedge, essentially. Like I didn't want there to just be arborvitae. There you go. So most of these plants are flowering plants and are fruit producing plants. So there's a variety of different color that shows up, and they're going to be flowering at different times of year. Now I think there's also some sweet fern, so lower growing plants. And the other thing about the picnic area is that the way I planned it and the way we want to implement it is that there are kind of deep rooted plants that are going to go on the outside. The larger plant's going to be on the outside. And then those sweet fern and some of the smaller ones are actually going to be on the level part of that picnic area. So it's not just going to be one big open space. We're going to let that grow in. A part of the planting plan and why I left it so dense is that we, one, wanted the redundancy in case certain plants failed, we needed to do maintenance, but also we're trying to create enough biomass so there's not just visual screening, but that during the summer and the spring and the fall, the early fall, there's enough foliage that it actually should keep sound to a degree from leaving. Now, I've also included, I know I said I didn't want just a hedge, but I did include some red juniper and some arborvitae because the soils are so sandy, we needed to make sure that all of these plants are drought tolerant as well. So we have a steep, this primarily affects the eastern side of the planting plan here. That's what the reason I chose for that section, the hedges, is that it's steep, it is sandy, and whatever we plant there is really going to need to be able to handle that. And we also wanted to make sure that in that area, if we're going to be planting on the western portion, I can plant deciduous flowering plants and I can get enough biomass that it screens and it looks pretty. I was concerned that if we had that steep slope in the sandy soils, that if we tried the same thing there, that the plants would fail. So that's why there's kind of that dichotomy of beautiful flower mixture to hedge.
And I might also say regarding the size, we did get feedback from Mass DOT recently, and they have actually asked us to reduce the picnic area. Not sure why they did that, because it is just lawn. I don't expect, but there's no picnic tables planned for this, right? Or maybe there are, and I just don't know about that.
I think we'd probably put a picnic table or
couple.
two.
Okay.
But yeah, no, they made the comment about their right of way, and I think they just didn't want an obstruction.
So what did they ask you to reduce it to?
They did not say.
They did not say. So what do you anticipate reducing it to?
That also I couldn't anticipate because it's based on standards that haven't been divulged to me. They say that we are in the state highway layout with the picnic area, which
Okay.
was a surprise to me because we are 20 feet back from the state highway layout. So there's something that has to get worked out there, but they are seeking, if Mass DOT has their way, it's going to be smaller by some amount. Either way, there will be a large soil mound there because this
Right.
project is generating fill, and we are going to fill on site. So there will be a plateau. We're just hoping to maintain it for the use of those using the recreation areas.
In conjunction with the picnic area, I know that you said that it's going to be strongly encouraged to carry in and carry out. Not all people carry in and carry out. They can leave a lot of trash.
Yes.
What is your plan to deal with that, especially if in today's world and social media, there's this great picnic area, you can hike, and all of a sudden, we have a ton of people coming and using this parking area and they're not picking up after themselves.
I actually would direct you to our social media.
Yeah.
Last year we did over 1,000 hours of trail work. Now when I say trail work, I mean all of the work that we do for our properties. That was invasive species removal, that was tree cutting, that was trail building, it's building terraces for the climbing walls. I would invite you to go to our Sandusfield property and see if there's any trash there. We have not experienced we don't really have issues with climbers leaving trash, but like you said, there's going to be a lot of the people, and we want other people to be able to use the space because we're dealing with it now in our current parking lot where trails are online, and like there was one day where I was doing trail work. I was putting drainage in behind one of our stone steps leading up from our existing parking lot, and a dozen, it was probably like late 50s to early 70s hikers came, and they all took separate cars, and they're all hiking up. And so when we were designing the parking lot, we were trying to think of ways that we could accommodate other people. But I think that I am confident that our track record of stewardship, we'd be able to take care of that. And I think a lot of people in town also have our phone number. Another instance I would point to is the 8-car parking lot on Cross Street that the Bryants own. One day, Rob, who is in the audience behind me as well, Rob and I were climbing at Farley. We got a text message from Stephanie, our executive director, who's also here. We got a text message that afternoon telling us that the Bryants had closed their parking lot because it was rutted and they wanted people off of it. So they put pallets down. People, a couple groups showed up from out of state. One group drove as far as 4.5 hours from southern New Jersey to get to Farley Ledges. And they arrive, the parking lot is full, they cannot find a place to go. They end up on Wells Lot, on the Cross Street, but we call it the Wells Lot. And they end up there, and they don't know what to do, so they move the pallet out of the way, and they park, and they put the pallet behind their car. That afternoon, Rob and I were able to get there, get rope, get no parking signs, and get that set up and moved. And we were able to talk to the 4 young men who had driven all that way, and we had to explain it to them. But that's the thing, is that trash I'm not too worried about, because we can go and we can pick that up and we can take it out. Sometimes it is policing that behavior that's right now been the challenge, is that we're not always there to do that. Like trash pickup, we can make a schedule for that. Like
Okay.
we can show up and we can make sure that parking lot is clean once a week. That I think is simple, because we can make our own schedule for that.
Okay, that's what I was
Sorry,
thinking. Would you have some sort of trash receptacle or something for, I know you don't want to encourage it, and I know you're good stewards of the parking lot. It's not, it doesn't really have what your current activities, you do a lot, and I understand that. My
Right.
concern is that you're going from a 20-car parking lot to a 71 space parking lot with a designated picnic area. So all of a sudden, it's not just for climbers and things like that. You're opening up to a whole nother group of
Right.
people that might not pick up their trash.
No, I think that's fair, and I think we can incorporate that into our operation and maintenance plan. I mean, we're gonna have to do the same thing for our mowing
Yes.
schedule as well.
And I know the coalition has had decades of a long, successful track record for this, and if there's, the things are always changing, if things change, they will adapt.
Yeah, and I think it'll be similar to our porta potty system. We have a company that comes and empties that for us. So.
Okay, yep, that was on my next schedule.
yeah.
So your porta potties will be, one will be handicap accessible, and
Yeah.
then they'll be in a schedule to be emptied.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything about the picnic area, or do you want to go in a
I'm
different
just thinking about
direction?
security.
Mhm.
In terms of like we've got all these trees and bushes that are growing up, and eventually they'll mature and they'll grow large and kind of, you said to me, encase. Do you have any plan for monitoring, or because it becomes a secluded area, and there's lighting or cameras or anything like that?
So at our current parking lot, we do have cameras. We don't have any lighting.
Yep.
Just because we don't want, if an animal goes by, light showing up in people's backyards. But we do set up cameras, and those multiple people in our organization have the ability to monitor what's going on.
Okay.
I mean, we can do the same thing through the parcel as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is partially something that we would want the town's feedback on too, and like what people would be comfortable with, and kind of where we can find common ground.
Yeah, not necessarily like monitoring.
Right.
But like if something were to happen, we would, some sort of record of like, hey, this got vandalized, this got destroyed, this something happened.
Yeah.
Is there a way, because it is a public space and it's because it's open at all
Right.
hours and not blocked off, the idea that we would have some sort of
Right. There was one instance where I don't remember the exact specifics. I think this was a few years ago. We were having some minor instances of vandalism in our current parking lot. I believe we had some safe space signs and LGBTQ signs, and somebody was vandalizing those. And if I remember correctly, we were able to identify who that was to the car at least.
Yeah.
But some other people knew.
Again, because we're just talking about like you're now almost quadrupling
right.
the size of your parking area, and again, going back to the whole like, you know, the trash and that sort of thing. It's like you're going to attract more people,
Right.
And you're going to attract different people that are not necessarily there necessarily for your climb,
Right.
and for the ledges, and not that we want to say that unsafe for people coming into town, but like
But we need to have a way
there has to be some accountability.
Yeah, no, we will definitely have at very least cameras.
Okay.
I mean, with the size of the property, I would imagine we would need at least a few at a couple different angles, and also to make sure we can see who's going up the trail as well. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's a completely reasonable thing to ask.
Would also want to point out what I've heard a couple times from the board. It seems like not aware that there are many other parking spaces in locations than just the 20-car space by the main trailhead that's just east of this project. I believe up to 50 spaces are on the south side of Route 2, and the idea is that those parking areas, which are right on the river, are going to be diminished. Some of them, we're going to try and stop using them or retire. Some of the people who have people parking like taking money from the people who come in, so we're not going to shut them down. But there are, I think, 2 facilities right on Bridge Street on either side.
Not so much a facility, it's just...
Not facilities, just where people are parking,
Yeah.
and we want to get them away from the river. So yes, they have 20 parking spaces in one location, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4 other parking locations. So we're not quadrupling the parking for the facility for Farley access so much as relocating it.
Actually, speaking of which, Glenn, is the map attached to this?
I think the if we want to look at those locations, I think
Yeah.
I added it to this package. Yeah, so
I think the next one.
But those locations are on private property, correct?
they are,
Yeah.
which is one of the main reasons that we are looking to bring them on the property controlled, not just controlled by the coalition, but directly connects to Farley.
One higher, Glenn? Yeah, right there.
I'm going to stand up to point.
So I think the only parking that we wanted to outright eliminate was just the road parking on Bridge Street. There's no stormwater infrastructure. It just, whatever comes off the cars would flow right into the river. We can't tell anybody else what to do with their property, and that's a decision for the landowner and the town. I mean, what we would do is a PR campaign to try to direct people, especially the people that do not know the town and do not know the history and do not know anybody in the neighborhoods. We want them primarily parking in the parking lot.
So I do want to be clear that the parking lot on Bridge Street is in the town of Wendell.
Yes.
The minute you cross the bridge, you're in Wendell.
Yes.
So you have the parking lot where, up on Cross Street, correct?
Yeah.
That,
Up here.
Right, and then your parking lot,
Their main one here.
yeah, and is there another one in Irving or
Bridge
no?
Street.
Well,
Across
Bridge
the
Street is in
along-
it's the
along-
Wendell.
Yeah. It is still an area where
Right, yes.
users
Yeah.
are being relocated along the highway on the north side. It's not Bridge Street anymore, I guess. the road
Oh,
changes.
yeah, it's Farley Road on the Wendell side.
And I thought there was one more like private one down here. Maple Street.
Yeah, there's some on Maple Street
Small,
that,
yeah.
I personally, I have not parked there, but it's, again, where we weren't going to try to tell people what to do. I mean, the reason that we're concerned, I know that one of the parking areas is in Wendell. The reason we want to dissuade people, that's really an environmental perspective for us too. It's also a safety issue, having people walk up multiple streets, but
Cross Route too.
I can't, it's my job. I see cars parked along the Millers River, and we want to try to at least get them away from there.
Does anyone have other questions for right now, or would you like to hear from the public?
I have questions about winter usage. I noticed in your presentation that you guys had, the application, you had stated that this is not typically a lot that is sanded or...
You cannot.
Yeah, so what are the plans for winter? If we have storms, is the lot going to be closed?
No, the lot with the anticipation, and you know, if there's a nuance here that I don't get right, please let me know, Ryan. But my understanding of the proposal is twofold. One, as an outdoor recreational area, the usage in the winter is very little, not zero, but very little. So the expectation is that one half of the parking lot will be plowed out. You do need to have little sleds on the bottom of the blade. That is one of the maintenance requirements for this particular surface. Otherwise, you'll just push all the material out and then start damaging it. But that's adequate to keep these things clear of snow. They're used in northern climates all the time. But we wouldn't be using salt. We cannot use sand. That would destroy the porosity of what we're building. But fortunately, solar gain is usually adequate that once you get the snow off of these surfaces, that they really do melt out pretty quickly, and they don't even melt and drain, creating ice flow. It just drops straight down. So there's a lot of advantage there. Right now, there is a lot of water from the wetlands and the hill that leaks out across the road. I'm told in the winter, I haven't witnessed this myself, but I've heard it from members of the Concom, and there's nods. But
Yep.
This project is going to manage to control that water, infiltrate much of it, and some of it is going to end up, when the driveway is improved and the Mass DOT right away, that water is going to be channeled into their existing drainage system, which is quite nearby.
Okay.
So you say half the parking lot, that's about 35 spaces. Your parking lot's 71. So will you still have some sort of management plan to take care of anything that occurs during the winter months?
Yep. It's still our
So it'll be a
responsibility.
year-round thing, it just won't be...
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
It's going to be year round. I mean, I think we were thinking the spaces that would end up getting plowed would be the ones closest to the the northern spaces that are closer to the tree line, away from the road, because there's still going to be screening in the winter with the hedges, but it's going to be reduced because there's some of the flowering plants. It's dense enough that I think the vegetation without foliage is still going to be enough. And again, it's going to be a little higher elevation, so that they'll be set back. And then we will have to manage this all year round, because the individual that is going to be owning the adjacent parcel is going to be sharing a driveway with us. And so they're going to need access at some point as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on it, yeah.
And it's a long driveway, so that will be plowed as well. So
Right.
I'm sure that the plow will just do the parking lot area at the same time.
And so emergency access will still be available if needed?
Yep.
Okay.
Up to the
Yeah.
gravel road itself, I don't expect would be plowed,
I
and
don't-
it dead
yeah.
ends in a wood road anyway. There's no
Yeah.
way we're going to be going up the mountain. So just the parking area.
Yeah, okay. And back just to the planting plan, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask it then. The plant that you said you're gonna change, are you?
The viburnum, yeah.
Yes, are you looking to replace it with a similar species and size and spread?
Yes, the Oxbow Associates actually said that alders already grow on the property. It would be an excellent switch. So I still wanted to take a look and then and see. I'm not an engineer, but I have a software that I use that I can visualize the plants, and so that's a part of the process that I use. So I wanted to at least take some plants, take a look, see what it's going to look like, and then I didn't want to just say, all right, alder it is.
Sure.
How long do you suspect the maturity of the plants to, because you're planting new plants.
Right.
Like, we're talking about, like, we're not going to have year 1, year 2 full
No.
coverage. Like, how long are you expecting the maturity of these plants to create that barrier that you're talking about?
The full height, I would think, for the full growth, I think a lot of the plants would probably be like 5 to 10 years, but we would have screening before that. The junipers, because arborvitae's technically juniper, so the red and white junipers, they will grow very, very quickly. And then a lot of these other species are kind of primary colonizers, like they grow quickly. And so I would have to look at the exact,
Yeah.
I would have to look at these plants.
Again,
what
I'm
their
looking,
growth rate
I'm
is.
kind of looking at the picnic area,
Right.
especially because with the pollards across the street.
Right.
And we're talking about a vegetative barrier.
Right.
But if we're talking about 5 years of a vegetative barrier, to have an optimal barrier,
Oh, I mean, you'll have a barrier before then. I think a lot of these plants will be towards getting, like, they're going to be getting full sun. We'll have to be watering them, and then it's going to happen quicker. But this is a question that I'd have to look at each of them and look at the growth rates, because
Okay.
we didn't include that on the table. I don't believe we just
No,
have
no.
just
Yeah,
the
you have
dimensions.
planting size and you have height range
Yeah.
and spread and that sort of thing. But I'm looking at like,
Yeah.
you know, because if we're planning on planting next spring or whatever,
Yeah,
we're talking about at least a couple of years before
yeah.
we have any sort of full.
I mean, all of them were chosen for their one, the soils, but also their growth rate. Like, and for this, especially if you look at the red maples along the sides here, like that is specifically why we chose them. Whereas,
Okay.
if you were to look at the northern side of the parking lot, the species up there don't have that same growth rate. You have the oak. Well, the white pine does, but the oak, scrub oak, the white oak, the mountain laurel, those are all a little bit slower. But one of the reasons we put them up there is that that's the vegetation that's coming down from the mountain already, and so we just wanted to kind of keep them there. On the sides of the parking lot, to the east and west, we have a few different white birch, and then we have not river birch. Yeah, that's yellow birch. We have yellow birch on the sides here. Those are also specifically chosen because they are fast growing and they can handle the wetter soils, and that was the same choice for all the other plants. I don't want to tell you an exact year range right now, just without checking again.
And with any vegetative buffer, it does take some years for them to be established. And the only alternative would be a privacy fence, and I don't think anybody wants to see a stockade fence or a vinyl fence there, so we could have instantaneous screening. I mean, it would be possible, it would probably be a lot cheaper, we wouldn't have to worry about all sorts of things, but really vegetative screening is by far going to be the most attractive thing in the long run for this project.
Yeah. I guess I'm more concerned about the short term as well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Plants have to take some time
I
to
and
grow.
I
Like,
fully aware that plants take time to grow.
Yeah.
But it's just like we have concerns from the people that live abutting to this property across the street with a parking lot and a picnic area, and I'm voicing their concerns about privacy. Them people seeing onto their property and them seeing people on in your property here. So that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the plantings right by the road, I mean, I would have to think about that. I don't know. There might be ways we could at least accelerate. Like we can amend the soil to make it more amenable. We can increase the growth rates. I don't know by how much. We can also spend a little bit more money and purchase plants that are already at a certain level of growth. Like we intended to do that for the trees. That was the baseline assumption. All the amount of plants that we have, we are going to be buying them in bulk from the Nasami Farm and Whately Native Plant Trust, and so I mean we can work with them to set up a delivery, and we can work with them to have more mature plants planted. I mean, I think that's probably the best we can do for here on the front end, closest to the road. As far as the east and west, one of the reasons that the planting, well, at least in the east, one of the reasons the planting plan was a little bit more sparse here is that there's already a dense wall of vegetation.
Yeah,
on that
I'm
side.
more concerned about the frontage
right from the
than
road, yeah.
the sides or the back. It's
Yeah.
it's the frontage with privacy
Right.
for the private residents across the street, and that sort of thing.
I can talk to Nasami Farms and see how mature the plants can be that we can get, and then I would be able to give the planning board a little bit better idea of like day one, what does this look like? So that's something I'll do some asking.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit, I know that you put it in the application about the service that you're doing, but the Conservation Commission raised some concerns about the surface and possible contamination of the ground and potential wells of the people. They're all in wells and septic systems in that area. So can you explain it a little bit more without getting way over technical in my head
Sure.
about how that's gonna prevent that? Because that's really what the concern is.
Absolutely. I mean, wherever there are vehicles, there's contamination. Everybody who lives near a road, they're dealing with that right now. That's not to say that we don't want that. The Commission's concern, as I recall the letter was, which I did reply to, and I'm sure the board was given a copy, was mostly about the resource areas, because that is their jurisdiction. So in terms of the hydrocarbons that have a tendency to leak from vehicles, a few things. One, we are trying to get those hydrocarbons out of the river. Right now, that's where they're going. So this is just putting them here is a massive environmental benefit by reducing the parking along the river and discouraging that as much as possible. And those cars also, they leak where they are.
Can I add a little climber
Sure.
knowledge? So most pollution from vehicles, like the hydrocarbons that come out of cars, that usually occurs during the rain. It doesn't necessarily just fall off of a dry car. The reason I say it's a little bit of climber knowledge, we don't climb in the rain. And I know that sounds like really simple, but it actually is a huge factor here. Like, a lot of times that pollution comes because you have a vehicle sitting, it rains, it washes down, or it collects on that surface from periodic rains washing that car off. You don't, when the rock is wet, you do not want to be on it, right? So you're not going to have 70 cars sitting there during a rainstorm. I mean, throughout the year, maybe once or twice, you might end up with a beautiful day in the morning, you have people park, and then some of that is going to enter into the parking lot. But a part of the design of the parking lot is that the water enters the stone section. It will sit there while it slows down. It doesn't immediately run through the sand. And then a lot of those particulates then stay in that stone system. Some get broken down, some sit there. But for the most part, you're not going to be having that pollutant load. It just doesn't, the usage just doesn't fit that. I mean, maybe you'd have hikers that would be out there during the rain, but then it would be a much smaller number.
So a couple of things. In the beginning of the presentation, you said not only is this for the Western Mass Climbers Association, it's also for all to use.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to encourage hikers to come, maybe in the winter cross country or whatever. So it's possible that when it is wet out, i.e.
Yep.
in the winter, that this would happen. Really what I wanted in particular was, how does the system really work? I did read through it, but I was looking for more of a layman's explanation, which you started to give about how it gets trapped in the rock and that sort of thing. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And
Yeah.
to also compare it to a conventional parking lot, if we had built an asphalt parking lot, which is typical, we'd have to have a stormwater collection system that is going to be on the low end of the site each and every time, gravity. And then what happens is, pollutants drip off, land on the asphalt surface, sit there and wait. They accumulate, they concentrate. Then we get a good rain, washes them all off, takes them all downstream, and forces them right up against the wetlands. So right now we are creating a huge buffer of lateral space between the most sensitive ecosystem on site and where the majority of the cars are going to be. If we had paved it and put in a standard infiltration system, we'd be taking that pollution, moving it down to the wetlands, and then infiltrating it into the earth in a concentrated mass. So this is a dispersed methodology that is a much gentler footprint than a conventional asphalt parking lot.
Thank you. I do have one question. You don't actually own the ledges. It's not on the property, so that is owned by the Northfield Mountain.
So, Glenn, could you go to one of our other maps?
Green
Because that's
ones.
another aspect of this. We have a map that without saying who necessarily owns what, we have a map that shows the property parcels.
Yes.
I think maybe one more. Yeah. This one. So we don't have exact numbers, but the white parcels that you see are private property. The blue is owned by, that's First Light's FERC lease. And so what you have there is actually two different sets of ledges. You have Rose Ledge and Farley Ledge. Both are, I believe, technically in Erving. So one of the things that we're also trying to do is that this parking lot and where the trails connect, it will drop you off onto the First Light land and further away from private parcels. And it actually, so the distance, if you wanted to go climb at Rose Ledge today, you would drive into Northfield and around, and you'd park in Northfield, and then you'd walk through the Northfield Recreation Complex to get to Rose Ledges. From this parking lot, it's actually the same distance to then go from the parking lot to Rose Ledges as it is to get to the private property of Farley Ledges. And some of our thought behind that is to try to move people towards the First Light owned properties, because climbing is in their FERC lease now. It's easier to manage. It'll reduce the numbers of people that are going onto private property, reducing the noise behind houses. We're literally trying to shepherd people onto First Light property here. So I would say that the most popular climbing at Farley Ledges is on First Light property. And a lot of the draw is on First Light property already. We're just trying to make it the easiest, simplest thing to do, especially for people for the people that are coming from out of town and don't know they're in someone's backyard and don't respect the fact that they're in someone's backyard. That is especially the kind of person that we were trying to move over onto First Light property. So I hope that kind of shows where the
It
boundaries
does.
are.
So, and I know it's part of First Lights, but it's actually Northfield Mountain LLC.
Right.
But have you had discussions with them about what you're doing and that you'll be funneling more people up there? Are they aware of your plans, or do you have an informal agreement with them to? I know it's part of their new FERC license, but they haven't gotten total approval yet. So,
Right.
Have you had discussions with them that you will be funneling more people up there?
I personally have not.
No, I meant your organization.
Yes. So our president, Andy Newman, has a relationship with First Light,
Okay.
and so he is in contact with them. I mean, right now, what we've been working out is how they would like us to do our maintenance activities, because we do a lot of trail work. And
Right.
so what they're kind of working right now, what Andy's been talking about mostly with them is how the procedures of how, what degree of a scope of work they want, things like that. But I would have to find out exactly how we're talking about the rest of the project.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions before I open it up
Just
to the public?
one more quick question. Going back to the parking lot.
Yeah.
Do you have hazard plans set up for in case there is a emergency, if a car blows up and leaks oil and gasoline, and we're talking about, we talked about earlier about like the gradual flow of things, but like, is there a hazard plan for in that parking lot in case there is a major catastrophe up there? And I'm talking about major catastrophe as like someone leaks their blows a radiator and now their coolant is all over the place, or they have they hit a pothole and their oil pan rips open and is now leaking all over the place. Do you have a contingency for that, or is it you feel as if the parking lot is permeable enough to handle that?
I mean, I think we'd have to talk to the kind of specifications of the producer.
The producer of the.
Well,
I guess I'm going to talk in general here.
Yeah.
And first, I think you can already tell, no, there is not
Yeah.
a specific
Yes.
hazard plan for, I think, a few reasons. One, this is not a manned facility. If you don't have somebody there, there's nobody to take action. Just like going to a park, there is usually not a ranger watching for oil leaks in the parking lot.
But people have your phone number, right?
oh,
So I'm
Yeah.
just going back to what you said earlier. Like,
Oh, yeah,
if
no,
you have someone
well-
that comes in and says, "Hey, listen, while I was here today, I have a major oil leak, or I have a gas leak, or I have something."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you have to. I would assume that there's got to be some sort of, every body
Oh.
has some sort of emergency plan to handle that. And like, we're talking about your property leaking into the groundwater and the grounds and that sort of thing. So it would behoove you, I would assume, to have some sort of emergency, worst case scenario plan.
yeah. I mean,
There's an information board, and now I don't know your proposed board, but I would hope that it has a way to contact the
Yeah.
coalition on it. So at the very least, if something occurs and there isn't a coalition member on site in an emergency situation, which is unlikely to be the case, they can find out retroactively, come and take steps. And I know DEP has a variety of, it's even in the stormwater report, spill response requirements, who to contact, part of the O&M of any stormwater management system, which this certainly counts as. So there is contact information. If there is a spill, what do we do? And it definitely involves getting the fire department involved, because they are usually the ones who are there to handle a hydraulic oil spill or something along those lines.
And I just want to add that, I mean, we're a volunteer organization, but we do have a paid employee. Our executive director, Stephanie Grieger, like, she is paid, and she is able to respond to issues. And so she monitors social media. She's can be contacted. We have our contact information on the board. I mean, we usually have at least, right now we have 2 kiosks at our current parking lot. But, I mean, we're accessible.
Sure.
And I think the scale of accessibility with the scale of this parking lot, the scale of accessibility is going to have to increase with that.
But yeah, I'd love to see, in case of emergency, on your kiosk there, to give people a resource.
It's just the idea that someone could come in,
Right.
and we could find out about it. You could find out about it a week, a month
Right.
later. Does not, in case of emergency, call this number, or
Yeah, normally, if a spill like that, 911 is really the way to go.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, then you have a plan to then clean up said spill.
Yes.
That would be something that would I would feel better.
Yeah, that would probably be directed by the DEP.
Okay.
What the action should
Yeah,
be. Typically, it's removing the material, disposing of it in a hazardous waste facility.
Yeah, we would have to report that to DEP, and then that would get. They have a tracker that literally tracks all of their oil spills, and
So if the planning board doesn't have any more questions for the applicant, I'd like to open it up for the public. Thank you for your presentation. If the public has any questions that you can answer, you can come back up after. Just a reminder, there's a 3-minute timer for the public, so that we can get everybody through at a reasonable hour. But before you go, I will tell you that we are going to want to do a site visit. So that's something that.
There wasn't one scheduled prior to the meeting.
Well, it was strongly encouraged that you come talk to the planning board prior to your submittal of the special permit. You declined, and so consequently, the site visit has to come tonight. That's the request.
The planning board hasn't discussed that yet, though, so I think that's something for us to discuss
Yeah.
first.
It is,
before we-
but I believe it's one of the requirements on the plans. But we can talk about it after. There's a potential.
can I just
I
ask
shouldn't
a
make
quick
that
question?
assumption.
Do you want to, just out of curiosity, are we going to do just the site area, or do you want to do the whole property? Because we could do both.
I think, well, we haven't talked it and voted on it.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that before, I personally would like to do a site visit,
Yep.
especially given the concerns from the abutters and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to make sure that I visually, I drive by it, but it's
Right.
not the scope of it, like
Right.
that sort of thing. It needs to be more stick a stake here and there, and this is what we're talking about. This is the picnic area that
Right.
we're talking about, that sort of thing. But we can discuss it if the board wants to do it, but I would like to at least see the site.
Yeah, I think that's.
But, so, yeah, don't go away, and we'll open it up to the public. And does anyone, if you'd like to come up and express your support, your concerns, your questions, if you just want to raise your hand, I'll call on you and just introduce yourself. Is there no one? Oh.
Hi, I'm Rinky Black. I'm in a butter. I support this project in general. I am wondering if the conservation restriction, which I'm very pleased about, is at all tied to the success of the permit for the parking lot?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
It's not tied
For
to
the, so people can
Yeah,
hear
you have to come up, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. So the conservation restriction is not tied to the permitting of the parking lot, but we are pursuing that conservation restriction. We've already talked to the trustees of reservation. And I mean, we've discussed it with the town too, but we've been talking to the trustees primarily. The current owner, because the WMCC, one of our board members owns a parking lot currently. He is in talks with the trustees because their interest and the interest in the conservation restriction is not like the WMCC's interest in the property is contingent on the parking lot. The trustees and other conservation organizations that we work with, theirs isn't, and so we are trying to, even if the planning board said no parking lot in any form, that the conservation process is still going forward. The current landowner is interested in doing it. The trustees are interested in doing it, and so we made sure that connection came now, so that could keep going, because we know that in the town's open space and recreation plan, like protecting this area is important. I mean, from a hydrologic perspective, you've got glacial outwash on the top of, in between those two mountains, and you have a wetland complex that feeds all of the wells of everybody below. So it's in everyone's interest to protect these parcels, especially Spruce Swamp. There's a 15-acre wetland that feeds 3 different tributaries, 2 of the Millers River, and 2 of the Connecticut, and 1 of the Millers up there. So yes, the goal is to conserve the property.
Thank you. Rinky, do you have any further questions? That was one, just the conservation restriction. Is there anyone else that? Please.
My name is Laura Herbert. I live in Old State Road. I am concerned about the increase in traffic on our road. As it is, people drive really, really fast. And, there are people walking their dogs. I see kids walking on the road, people just walking in general. So I'm concerned about the safety of that. And in addition to our road, which people drive super fast on, I'm just also concerned about the safety of individuals leaving Old State Road, heading back like east on Route 2. People go super, super fast on Route 2. There's kind of like that 2-lane stretch, they kind of ramp up, and I'm just concerned about, what the safety issues would be around that, and I'm wondering if there's been any kind of traffic analysis.
Would you like some feedback on that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So just swap out.
Okay.
As with every single civil engineering project I've been involved with, safety is always a concern, especially when we've got cars moving around and people moving around. I did look into the traffic flow in the area. Mass DOT does an awful lot of traffic counts. Even though they own this, they don't have one for Farley. However, the last time we were there for an hour, and 1 car showed up. It was a Mass DOT vehicle stopped in the middle of the street, and we all had a meeting. So it is quite understood that the traffic is low. And in terms of traffic flow and traffic count, the intermittent fair weather use of this facility poses no increase in traffic percentage-wise that would have any meaningful change. Like if you have 1 car per hour right now, that road should be able to handle 2-lane road. I think it's like 600 cars per hour easily as an average, and like 2,400 cars in a peak rush. So we're talking about a fraction of a percent in terms of what the road is capable of handling from a safety standpoint. Understandable, an awful lot of rural roads. There are people walking on those roads, absolutely. And to a certain degree, yes, this will attract more traffic, but percentage-wise, it is not a major increase as far as the road's capacity and general traffic and pedestrian safety.
Does that answer your question, Laura, or do you have some more for the traffic? Different topics?
Well, I understand that the road is capable of handling more cars, but I don't think that's really addressing my concern about the safety of individuals who live on this road, who might be, turning out, like I live on a blind curve, for instance. So, even though percentage-wise, it might not be a lot in terms of what the road can handle. I'm just concerned about the safety and well-being of the residents on the road, and like I said, of the individuals walking. I mean, it's really genuinely dangerous. So, you know, I know it's not going to be necessarily year-round, but we're talking about a major increase of, you know, this parking area. I mean, I drive by Route 2, the current parking area, and it's always packed. So if we're anticipating, you know, 70 cars, I mean, is there going to be a turnaround? Like, are there going to be, you know, like, let's say, just because it's 70 cars in terms of capacity, or 71 or whatever, you know, maybe there would be 100 people in a day or 200 people in a day. So how is that going to impact the residents on our road? I'm just concerned, that's all. And then along those lines, I am concerned about an increase in trash as well. I know the folks did address the trash at the site itself, and I'm not saying that the climbers would do this, but people do throw trash out the window. And, you know, I appreciate that there's been a lot of concern. You know, I've heard a lot of concern about the river, which is great, but, you know, trash on the road, that all winds up in the river. So I'm just wondering, you know, like, who's gonna clean this up? Like, if someone's throwing whatever out their window, you know, who cleans that up? And then lastly, my concern, well, not lastly, but another concern I have is just about the impacts of the wildlife and the environment. You know, we're increasing the amount of people that are using this area. You know, how is that has an impact on the environment itself, the wildlife community, you know, more compaction on the soil. So just having concerns around that, and, you know, what that is going to mean for our both residents, people, and also animals.
Thank you.
Can I just
Yeah,
comment
no,
on that?
go, Laura.
I just want to say I completely hear and am very much concerned about what you've just said. I live on the opposite side of town, right before the state forest, and we exact same situation that you are concerned about from spring until it's plowed in with snow. And it's a bad roadway. There are no sidewalks, and people walk their dogs, and they bike. And so I just want you to know that I'm very much hearing what you're concerned about, and that
Thank
will
you.
definitely be discussed further.
I appreciate that. I guess if I still have any time left, I just
Yeah,
was
I forgot
wondering
to-
how they arrived at 71 spaces in the first place. I mean, it just is such like a huge increase, and I just am confused about how that number landed.
Although I didn't keep the timer, that's probably about 3 minutes roughly.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay,
Try to tackle
Yep.
a few. There were a few questions in there. I'm Andy Newman. I'm the current president of the Western Mass Climbers Coalition. So as far as space and design, when we looked at it, it had two components. One was what could we feasibly do on the site, and we are looking ahead, not on the 2 to 5 year horizon, but on the next 15 to 20 years of climbing in Western Mass. And looking at the growth trends, we know that we need more parking. The current situation is fairly untenable with the number of people who are walking on Route 2, which, I mean, current concern aside from people walking on Old State Road, it is far more dangerous on the blind curves at 60 miles an hour than on the 35 or 40 mile an hour speed limit that we have on Old State Road. So from the current use perspective, I think we are moving in the direction of safety, which is a primary driver. The other side of that with usage is there is a minimum threshold for us to make this project viable. And when we look at the current parking capacity for Farley, and that's not limited necessarily just to town of Erving, but the lot across the bridge is part of that. And right now we see about 80 spaces cobbled together at like a max day. That's what the parking exists currently. We're not intending to close our current parking lot, so we see the 70 space area as almost a one-for-one exchange of what currently exists, coupled with our existing lot that's really not that much growth room into the future. So like while it sounds very large, from the number of spaces that already exist, it's not that much bigger.
And I understand, but you're also talking about, and with her concern, is you're taking multiple parking spaces, parking lots, and consolidating them into one spot. So usage is not going up. Concentration
Traffic,
is going up.
Traffic on that section of road. Now, the majority of the climbers are coming from the east, so it is a shorter section of Old State that would be utilized more heavily. Once you're on the western flank of the parking lot, a lot less users are coming from that direction. So there are fewer houses on that eastern end that are affected, and that is a generally straighter shot. I don't know if it's something that the town has considered or Mass, I guess it's DOT. You know, if the speed limits need to be adjusted to help increase some safety on that road. Obviously that's outside of our purview, but that is something to be considered.
Any other?
Were
I
there
just
any
want to add to the
other items in
concerns.
there?
We did ask Chief Holst
Yes.
specifically about his concerns about increased traffic on Old State Road. And his response was that he did not have any major concerns about it.
Who was this?
Chief Holst?
Police Chief
Well,
Holst.
I think his email was that because it is a state road,
It's a state highway.
we
Yeah.
requested input from DOT on this and did not receive anything.
And there was a comment about hardscaping and erosional control and trail network. That is something that we have seen in the climbing world. As usage has increased, the need for better trail infrastructure has become readily apparent. Ryan mentioned several times this property down in Sandusfield. That is something that we as an organization have built ground up, using what we've seen at Farley, because there is some visible erosion up at the cliffside, and now we take a much more proactive approach to designating our trails very clearly, lining steeper sections with stone. We've become very good at building stone steps and really looking at durable travel surfaces. And so while, yes, you're concentrating the usage to a narrower corridor, the fact that you are hardscaping it is the term that likes to be used, makes it a much more robust surface through the future.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Does anyone else have any, come on, Ben. Just try to keep it to around the 3 minutes, because I messed it up in the beginning, so.
Yeah, for me that'll be hard, but.
I know.
My name is Bill Morris. I'm in a butter. I live on Ridge Road. I've lived there and on the property there for about 20 years, so I'm on the largest west flank of the property. I'm up there because I love to hike, and it is an awesome place to hike. I probably have hiked that area more than any other person that's in this room here today, and I'm very familiar with it. So I want to tell you that I'm very much in favor of what the Western Mass Climbers Coalition is trying to do. But I'm also a lawyer, and so I think about things legally, and I think about a special permit. I think about this is rural residential, and it is an area where you need to be concerned primarily about the people that are there, and make according to your permit, certain things happen. They have said a lot of things tonight, but I spent 2.5 hours reading through their application, and much of this was not in the application. And so if you simply approve the application, whatever they say here just kind of floats around. So I think that an overarching concern is you would go with as much caution as you can, and so forth. Because of my time being limited, I just want to go over just a few things that I wanted to point out. certainly traffic is a problem. It's not a 1 to 100 ratio there. No, that is a regularly used road, and that needs to be considered. There are people that walk all the time on that road and run and walk their dogs, and people from the city and from the town do that all the time. And they're your friends and neighbors and coworkers. I think the problem here is that Rose Ledge isn't big enough for all the people they want to bring in. I'm up there on Saturdays and I see all the people up there. It's really pretty busy. They're running out of capacity there. So I would think that you would want to at least, yeah, I understand promoting it, maybe promoting all the way down to Rose Ledge. Well, you're not going to carry you're going 4 times as far to this parking lot to get to the climbing areas, even on the west side, which is closest to the new parking lot, to climb than the parking lot that exists with the 20 or so spots. The distance down to Rose Ledge, nobody's going to go there. That's too far. That's almost a mile carrying equipment. It's much shorter to park at the parking lot at Northfield and come back. What I'm suggesting here is that you want to be very careful about what they have said versus what's in their application. And I think that's something that you really need to look at. Another example of that is the existing Woods Road for rescue vehicles to go up. And if you do your, go out and look at the area and you start to go and try to climb and figure out what you're going to do, there is no way that a 4-wheel drive vehicle can get up there. Incredibly expensive. And I can testify to that out of my personal experience of building my own driveway. A third of a mile up that mountain. They're not going to do it. They can't do it. They could get it so that you can get 4-wheelers in there, but that's only when you take the zigzags and you go from one end of the property to the other, and then you can get a straight shot. There are no trails that go from the parking lot directly to Rose Ledge. Those would have to be all new trails. If you go now, it's a mile hike to go all the way up what I call Rocks Trail, and then cut in onto the green trail that First Light has put in that goes over east directly to the west side of Rattlesnake Mountain. So that's a long way of saying slow down. This is a great thing, but it's. I think you're being sold on something that is not quite there. I would love to have heard from the Pollards. They live right across the street. The parking lot's going to be tiered and stepped, and so from the top you're going to have some pretty high trees to cover their home. If you just walk up that Rocks driveway and you look, you'll see that there's going to have to be quite some time before trees will do that. Do we want to add picnic tables and more people? It's not seemed to be consistent with what they're doing as a climbing club. If you give me a moment, I'll just look and see if there's anything else. Yeah, they also need to have, because it's a state road, Old State is a state road, they have to get approval for the road cut from the state.
They did mention in their presentation they were working with Mass DOT.
Yeah, they'd have to approve that, but let's make sure that it comes in before the special permit is issued. But again, overall, I think it's great. I think it's a resource. It's awesome. I don't rock climb, but it's awesome, and I see the people there. They bring their lunches, they bring everything with them. But this is going to be a long hike. I don't even know if this parking lot's really going to be used like they've been presenting here. It's so much easier to go to the other spot, get dropped off, and you're right there.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has any comments, concerns?
Being your butter right next door, except for once in a while.
Yeah. Don't forget to introduce yourself to the people.
My
that
name's
might be
Bruce
watching.
Paul. I live across the street, and I don't believe that increased traffic is going to be an issue, because it's not like those cars are going to be going in, staying an hour, in and leaving. It's usually a long-term stay. And so And I don't think they're all gonna be coming in at the same time. I think there's gonna be hit or miss, you know, coming in now and then. We're not gonna have traffic jams and things like that. And I think most people are respectful of people walking on the road. Most of the speeders are people who live on the road, so, you know, because that's most of the people who drive on the road. And so I don't see an issue with the traffic. And as far as the aesthetics of it, I think they're gonna do everything they can to please everybody and make it presentable. I mean, they want to be good neighbors. They don't want to be troublesome, as we want to be good neighbors as well. And then there was a concern about contaminates from the parking lot, from cars and stuff. And as water goes through their parking lot and goes through the stone, it's going to go into the sand. And as water travels through sand, it purifies. I think you can check it. That's why you can't do anything within 100 feet of wells, because water goes through the ground, it purifies before it gets to your well. And so that's not really an issue. There's going to be some chemicals and stuff that will travel that won't be trapped. But that happens at any parking lot. Like the town has a parking lot down by the riverfront. That's right near the river. I don't see no contingency plan for leaky radiators or oils and things like that. So it's kind of it's hard for me to understand how they can ask one organization to jump through hoops to prevent spillage and oils and things like that, when the town isn't required to, when they have a parking lot right on the river. So it's kind of like what's good for one is good for the other, you know? So we got to kind of be reasonable, not overjudging them, you know, or making them do things that are, I feel, unrealistic.
To be clear, it was a question of inquiry. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
a condition.
I
so.
think they're really going to try to, and it was great, commendable that they want to address a program in case there is a serious spill, to confront it, to handle it. And I think that's nice that they're willing to look out for other people. And you never know what's going to happen, you know. You could drive down the road and your car can, I drive down the road every day. I see cars on the side of the road, fluids all over the place. And it's not like an oil tank is going to be parked in there overnight. And so I think the fluids, I don't think it would be an issue because of the natural purification of the water as it goes through the slits. It's good sands there, and it is good for purifying. And I don't believe people are going to be hanging around the parking lot partying and stuff like that. I think it's going to be, they go there, they want to go up in the woods, they want to climb, they want to enjoy the nature and stuff like that. They don't want to be standing around the parking lot. I mean, you will have to get in the day. People are going to sit there and talk and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be a outrageous block party or something like that. I think it's going to be. I don't see no issues with it myself.
Right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
My name is Jen. I live on Old State Road. My husband and I specifically moved to Old State Road because it's private, it's quiet. This makes me super uncomfy with how many different people will be coming, especially in the fall. You can see Route 2. Everybody wants to see the foliage. They're going to want to come here. So I also have concerns about coming in and going out of traffic. My main concern is we did move here because it's quiet, because it's private. This, I think, is going to change it.
Do you mind letting us know which area of Old State Road you live on?
I'm in a butter.
You're in a butter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's all.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Kathy Pollard, and I live right across the street. And my main concerns were the traffic and just the influx of people, you know, all at once, I'm not sure, you know, just the privacy, and that's it, that's.
Okay, so you did write a letter of concern. So I don't want to misspeak, but
Yeah.
you had some concerns for, and I know how intimidating it is to sit there with
Yeah,
the cameras.
I'm
believe
not.
me. Actually filtering them out. I'm doing pretty good tonight. So do you want to talk about those concerns? If you don't, you just, I mean, your letters have
It's
gone
just-
to the board and we've
just
all
the-
read it.
No, just mainly, like I said, the privacy and just the amount of, all the amount of people that could come all at once, you know.
Okay.
And it would be just, you know,
Okay.
affecting our privacy and stuff, so.
Okay. You were, the vegetation plantings that they are proposing, are you comfortable with what they're proposing? Because you are one of the direct abutters. Do you mind letting us know if, does that sound like something that would work for you, or?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, all right.
It's just mainly, you know, just the amount of people, and
Okay.
why is it gonna be so big and have that many people at once, and then other people, if there's that picnic area, or you get more people coming straight, you know, is it gonna turn into like people coming just for parties or whatnot, or?
Okay,
It's just, yeah, it is concerning, so,
all right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newman?
Respond to a couple of
Yep.
broad picture comments. One, as was mentioned before, the picnic area seems to have a lot of concern, and this was really like a strategic use of dealing with some excess fill on site. We were never envisioning anything more than a picnic table, if that. I think the maintenance and management concern is very legitimate, and just from an organizational standpoint, not having to do that is easier. So that is something that we are ready to, you know, talk about and work with to alleviate concerns on the picnic area front. I think it's also worth mentioning that we see this parking lot having its biggest usage on like the peak climbing days. This isn't the everyday parking area. It is not, you know, your Wednesday afternoon people like myself who are fortunate to be able to sneak out of work and live close enough and go climb for a couple of hours. We still have the climbers lot. You know, that lot's not full 5 out of 7 days a week. This is really like the nice Saturday and Sunday in the spring and the fall when the temperatures are really good and we see those max usage days. We don't anticipate much use of the lot on weekdays, with, you know, aside from the select person who wants to go to one of the closer cliffs. We did talk at length with the fire chief and police chief, and I believe with Brian was on that call and Stephanie was on it, about emergency access. And there were two components to that. One, with more space somewhere else, we can allocate more room in our existing lot for emergency access vehicles. So we could still, in theory, stage a rescue if needed from the closer access point. And the other component was that the fire department felt that the Gator, which I'm assuming is like I think it's a 6-wheel vehicle, would have no issue making it up the existing woods road to get to the near part of climbing access from the new lot. So that was something that we had discussed with them and with First Light. As far as just like rough trail distances, we did a fair bit of mapping and walking, and when you look at long point to long point of where climbers travel from the proposed new lot, the distances are pretty congruent with where we see people going. So we do think it will see, you know, a good amount of usage for spreading the climbing, because capacity localized in one spot is something that we're trying to use, and we see this lot dumping you into a different section of the cliff that isn't as highly utilized currently, and that will help spread out the climbers and reduce that kind of visual clump impact that we get at the top of the close trail right now.
Okay, thank you.
How many ideal climbing days would you expect in a year?
It's New England where we don't get to have nice things. I think that we probably max out on our current parking probably 10 or 12 days a year. Is kind of my gut, like on some of those 3-day weekends where you see a lot of people who, come up on that Sunday of a 3-day weekend. But I don't see it as every weekend. Most weekends there is somewhere to park. I know my wife and I, when we come out, we try to be there extra early. Like we don't show up at Farley after 8 because we want a space that we don't have to walk the dog on Route 2. So if it's later than that, we'll choose a different climbing area. I don't think it's more than 10 or 12 days a year that we see full capacity.
Does the committee have any other questions related to this? Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So we've been given a lot of material, a lot of questions, a lot of things. I, for one, would like to do a site visit to get a better idea of what it looks like. I am curious about looking from the parking lot down to the abutters. I hear their concerns. So I don't know if anyone else is interested in a site visit. You can, I'm assuming that it would have to be sometime in late afternoon, early evening, or on a weekend to accommodate everyone that wants to attend. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
Okay, so perhaps the applicant can email us some dates. We can make a date that's a consensus for everyone. It's a site visit, so we can post it as a site visit, but there won't be any deliberations of the committee. It's really just to go look up at the site. I would like you to stake the parking lot and the picnic area, so I'm a visual person. I look at plans all the time, but I need the little stakes to actually see what where everything is. I don't know about anybody else, but
In order, we would love to welcome you out there to walk it. Practically speaking, at this time of year, we haven't mowed at all this year. You're talking about like kind of chest to shoulder deep brush. Is this something you would want us to kind of mow the actual parking area?
that would be perfect.
It's something we can probably get done, but we may need to kind of schedule our timing of it.
That's fine. That would actually, if that's an easier thing for you, then that's fine.
Collards? We'll talk with them about mowing.
Okay.
And then maybe come back together. Just from a practical standpoint, it's during the Concom site visit. It's pretty arduous to see and navigate in there.
Yeah.
I think Annie Diamond found us a mower, but I think it was about $1,000. Was it like $800?
Okay.
Something of that nature. We'll work on that side of it.
Okay.
But as far as if we're going to stake and see to be visual without it mowed,
It'll get lost.
It just gets lost in the brush.
Well, since my grass is mostly dead from the extended lack of rain, I don't think we've mowed in like 3 or 4 weeks. But that would be fine. If you're willing to do that, that would be great. And I, for one, I want to get more visual on everything as a whole. It is a large space that you're proposing, and so I think that will help. That will help me to visualize. I don't know about any of the other committee members. So just some dates that might work. Be a little flexible, but I believe that Tom, what is your end time? Like the earliest you could get to 5, 6?
Would all depending on my schedule, and which I don't have yet.
Okay, so I'd say throw out a weekend or two, and then maybe some evening times. Is there any dates that
Evening
don't?
would be better for me.
Okay.
My week, I'm
All right.
away a lot.
Is there any day in particular that's terrible for everyone that we shouldn't even consider?
I can't do Wednesdays.
Okay, so no Wednesdays. What, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry,
Oh.
so we're volunteers, so weekends
Yeah.
are great for
Okay.
us.
Yeah, so leading into that, I would entertain a motion to continue this special permit hearing, public hearing until our September 18th meeting. So that'll give us some time to arrange a site visit and review all the information that has transpired tonight, because there's a lot of it, and I have to go back and relook at it all again, and I'm sure everybody else does too. So is there a motion?
Motion.
Oh, okay, is
Go
there a
ahead.
second?
A second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor to continue until September 18th at right around 7 p.m.? Well, it'll be 7 p.m. We have a meeting, so it'll be part of the continuation. Say, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then we'll continue the special permit public hearing until the 18th of September at 7 p.m. Thank you all for coming. It's great to see so much participation.